Intonation is a variation of pitch when speaking. Many languages use pitch semantically, for instance to convey surprise and irony or to change a statement to a question. Such languages are called intonation languages. English and French are well-known examples of intonation languages. So you might have rising intonation or falling intonation. Rising intonation is where the pitch of the voice increases. Falling intonation is where the pitch decreases over time. So, for example, if you say yes or yes, no, no, then this change in the pitch doesn't mean that the word changes meaning. Yes will still mean yes, but it gives the listener an indication that you have a yes but perhaps with a hesitation, or a yes with a question, or your yes with determination. Now this differs according to some other languages, and here if you change the pitch then you change what the actual word means. For example, in Chinese and Thai. And therefore these languages are known as tone languages, because if you change the pitch, then if you change the tone, then there is a significant difference in meaning. Whereas in English and French, these are intonation languages where there is no difference in the actual meaning of the word, but you might be informed slightly differently. An intermediate position is occupied by languages with tonal word accent. For example, Japanese and Swedish, which has a few words where a different tone affects meaning. So anden, tanken, tomten. And is it the tomt, which is the area around the house, or is it the guy with the big beard who appears at Christmas every now and again? So differences in tone affect a handful of words in Swedish and Japanese. So English is Chinese as an intonation language, and Swedish has an intermediate position which has a handful of words which changes meaning when you use a different tone. Awareness of tone change, of sense of difference, whereas there's no change in meaning. Now we'll look at Chinese in comparison in the next slide. Mandarin Chinese is a tone language, and here if you say the word ma with a high tone, it means mother. With a low tone, it means hump, and with a middle tone, it means scold. So Chinese, like many of the world's languages, are tone languages. And importantly, English is not a tone language. Sentence stress is also known as rhythm. Sentence stress is the music of spoken English. And like word stress, sentence stress can help you to understand spoken English, especially when spoken fast. Sentence stress is what gives English its rhythm or beat. When we talked about word stress, this is accent or strength on one syllable within a word. Sentence stress is emphasis on certain words within a sentence. I'm going to emphasize and explain sentence stress here. Sentence stress is what gives English its rhythm or beat. You remember that word stress, as I mentioned before, is emphasis on one syllable within a word, whereas sentence stress is emphasis on certain words within a sentence. Most sentences have two types of words, content words and function words, or also known as structure words or grammar words. Content words are the key words of a sentence, and they are the important words that carry the meaning or sense. Function words, structure words, are usually small, grammatical words which kind of glue the sentence together. If we have a look at some of these, will you because I've to. Here, these are all the function words which have been left. And if you remove all the content words, then it's difficult to understand what the sentence is about. If, however, sell car gone France, well, that gives a bit more information. You can ascertain what it is that the person is trying to say. So this would be a bit like a telegram, wouldn't it? Sell car gone France. It's not grammatically correct, but you still understand what is being communicated, i.e. that somebody wants you to sell their car for them because they've gone to France. How about this next statement? Sell my car, I've gone to France. Will you sell my car because I've gone to France? Now in all these different versions, for each time, I've added some more words. Sell car, gone France. Sell my car, I've gone to France. Will you sell my car because I've gone to France? Now in this situation, there is only one syllable between sell and car. And there are 3 syllables between car and gone. We maintain a constant beat on the stress words. So in order to do this, we say my more slowly and because I've more quickly. We change the speed of the small function words so that the rhythm of the key content words stay the same. So the time between sell, car, gone France is the same. But in order to maintain the same time between these, some of these words have to be rushed through. English is a stress-timed language, not a syllabic one. A stress-timed language. Let's look at the rules for sentence stress again. The time between stressed words is always the same. It is the content words which are stressed, the words which have some kind of semantic meaning. These are often the main verbs, like sell or give or employ, or nouns like car, music, Mary, adjectives like red, big, interesting. These are the content words, and they are often stressed. The structure words or the function words, they're unstressed. Words like she and we and at and and, but, or. We can, however, have non-neutral stress. That's when we wish to emphasize something. So in the last example here, they've been to Mongolia, haven't they? No, they haven't, but we have. Sometimes, as speakers, we might choose to emphasize something because we want to indicate that something is wrong, or we want to ensure a particular point. So, rhythm in language. 75% of the world's languages are syllabic timed. 25%, like English, these languages are stress timed. Interestingly, what is going to happen to English as a result of this? Because much of the world's population is learning English, and they're learning English in a syllabic timed manner. For example, Hindi, many Indian languages are syllabic timed, and you have people who speak English as their first language, but with a syllabic timed pattern, and consequently it might be very difficult to understand an Indian English speaker, at least in the very beginning. So you can't so easily put one language as being stress timed and another as being syllabic timed. You have to think of it as a continuum, where some are more stress timed and some are more syllabic timed, and then there are some which are somewhere in between there. In syllabic timing, each syllable has the same time duration. This means that the pattern, the rhythm of the language will sound very different compared to a stress time language. Usually, but not always, the stressed syllable in a stress time language is the one containing new information. By changing the time taken to say any particular syllable in a stress time language, the meaning might change. And this can be quite tricky indeed for a person who's learning English. Native speakers of English do it automatically, but the speaker, especially if the speaker's background is a syllabic time language, tries to learn a stress time language, then inevitably there'll be problems in rhythm. So, as regards stress time rhythm, in order to maintain the same amount of time between stresses, the speaker has to hurry some words, and consequently some things become co-articulated. We talked about some of these co-articulation features earlier on. Unstressed words become shortened, or vowels, they become weakened. Working with rhythm, how can we do this? Let's have a little trial here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeat after me. 1, 2, 3, 4. One and two and three and four. Repeat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Stop there. Let's try the next one. I'll say it, and then I'm going to say it 2 more times. See if you can join in with me. 1 and then 2 and 3 and then 4. 1 and then 2 and 3 and then 4. A good way to practice this kind of rhythmic usage is something called jazz chants. And what would you then be practicing? You'd be practicing that between the stressed part of the sentence, in this case 1, 2, 3 and 4, you might have one word or you might have two or three words. However, the time between each stressed part will be the same. So jazz chants are recommended for this. What are jazz chants? Jazz chants are collections of chants or poems that set everyday situational English to a rhythm to demonstrate the rhythm and intonation pattern of conversational English. Here's a chant from a book called Jazz Chants by Caroline Graham. And there'll be some kind of beat. Do you know Mary? Mary who? Mary MacDonald. Of course I do. Do you know her little brother? Yes, of course I do. I know her brother and her mother and her father too. Do you know her older sister? Yes, of course I do. I know her older sister Betty and her younger sister Sue. Let's try that again, but this time you are the person on the right hand side and I'll be the left hand side. So when I say, do you know Mary? Then you're to say, Mary who? And I'll say, Mary MacDonald, and you say, of course I do, except you have to do it to the beat. And now let's try this out. Are you ready? After 3. 1, 2, 3. Do you know Mary? Mary MacDonald. Do you know her little brother? Do you know her older sister? know her older sister, and her younger sister. Jazz chants are heaps of fun, and they're also very, very useful. Let's continue with this just a little bit more. I'll go through it once completely, and the second time, why don't you try to join in? After 3. 1, 2, 3. Do you know her Aunt Esther? Yes, of course I do. I know her aunts and her uncles and her cousins too. Do you know her husband Bobby? Yes, of course I do. I know her husband and his brother and his father too. Once again. Do you know her Aunt Esther? Yes, of course I do. I know her aunts and her uncles and her cousins too. Do you know her husband Bobby? Yes, of course I do. I know her husband and his brother and his father too. Teaching suprasegmental phonology in English. Well, it can't be taught or learned analytically. It's just too complex. Rhythm, intonation and stress timing are best learned by imitation, done frequently, for a short time every day. And if you teach these things, then you should teach it briskly, humorously, and ready to adapt instantly to handle individual situations. If you are fortunate enough to be living for a while in an English-speaking country, then you'll pick this thing up from the people around you. It'll come naturally. But for those of your students, for you who have not had this situation, is there a useful tool for learning rhythm, intonation and stress timing? Then the answer is yes. It's called shadow talking. Shadow talking is mimicking which is raised to an art form. Here's what you do. Tape record 2 or 3 minutes of the speech of a speaker you admire. Figure out the meaning first, so you don't have to worry about that while you're practicing the intonation. Finally, shadow talk the speaker again and again and again every day for a few minutes. Forget your own personality. Become the other speaker. Like an actor, and don't be discouraged. A lot of people tend to give this up quite quickly, but if you persist, you'll become very skilled at shadow talking. And it is one of the very few known ways to master native speaker intonation.